Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Tadayampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tadayampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tadayampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. So now time for some meditation. I hope everybody is doing well, keeping a nice calm mind, a positive attitude, loving and kind to yourself, to others. If we maintain a mind like this, then actually meditation practice is much easier. Because whether the meditation practice and all the other practice that we do, Dharma practice, whether it's easy for us or whether it's like a burden, it depends on our attitude. So it's all up to us. Okay, so now gently close your eyes, your lips gently touching, And bring your mind to your body, to releasing whatever tension you have in your body, all the way from the tips of your toes up to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and up to the top of your head. So we'll take half a minute or a minute to do this before we engage in the breath meditation. So now bring your mind to your breath, the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose, all the way into your lungs, and then you breathe out your nose again. If any mental activities arise, such as thoughts or emotions, attitudes and the like, then don't cling to them, don't grasp at them. Also, don't try to forcefully push them away either, or deny them. Just replace the mind back onto the breath and let them pass. Don't add to them. Start telling yourself stories and things. Give up dwelling on the past or planning for the future. If your mind becomes dull, then wake it up a little bit by focusing more brightly on the breath. So now we'll practice like this for a few minutes in silence. So now we can feel very pleased with ourselves for engaging in this short practice and fill ourselves with universal loving kindness. Utilize the visualization skills. Visualize your body filling up with white light, or if you prefer, white nectar. Now you can radiate this loving kindness out to initially your family and friends, and to strangers, and even those you find difficult, may even regard as enemies. May all these people be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And gradually radiate this loving kindness out further and further to now include all the living beings around your immediate area. And throughout your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world. Now this radiation of loving kindness is gathering so much momentum. It quickly radiates further and further to include the solar system and other solar systems throughout the galaxy and other galaxies throughout the universe. Now have your loving kindness pervade throughout infinite space, this infinite loving kindness. And at the same time, be present here and now, and we will recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And so now, wherever you are, like I said before, keep calm mind, positive attitude. Now it's time to hear the Dharma. And so then you can contemplate what it is you have heard later on, and then you can meditate on it and absorb your mind with understanding. As you know, we are continuing the commentary on the 6 paramitas, or the 6 perfections, transcendental perfections. And we are now on to each one individually. So the first one, of course, is generosity. And we've already spoken about the 3 types in brief. The generosity, the ordinary type of generosity of giving material aid. And then, of course, we will move on after that to the giving the protection from fear, and then on to giving the Dharma. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the giving of material aid. And of course, this, as mentioned before, comes on 3 levels. There's the ordinary level, there is the great level, and then there is the extraordinary great level. So first of all, you could say ordinary level. Of course, generosity, even when we talk about this, we use this word ordinary, but actually compared to worldly ways, compared to self-centeredness, compared to greed and miserliness, this is not ordinary, is it? It's quite extraordinary. But we talk about it as ordinary, I guess in a way to then remind ourselves we need to improve. And we're doing it from a self point of view, you know. Remember that to give something, there has to be a giver, a receiver, and also the giving, of course, or whatever it is you're giving. So there's three aspects to this generosity, to every act of generosity. In fact, three aspects to everything, really, isn't it? When we interconnecting with others, you know. So the self, as you know, just very briefly, there is no self to be found. Think about the 5 skandhas, the teaching that we did in great detail a few months ago. There's nothing there, is there? How can you say that there's a permanent self within your body or any aspect of your mentality? All of these aspects are constantly changing. So there's no self to be found there. And of course, the self of the person you're giving to is likewise like this. Then the act of giving is impermanent too. And as well, each of these 3 aspects are dependent upon each other for there to be an act of giving. So the actual giving, the act of giving is empty of self-nature. So we should try our best, even though we say we're practicing on an ordinary level, we should try our very best to practice without attachment as much as possible. Of course, we can't do that 100% right now because we do have attachment. We do have attachment to ourselves. And even the feeling, the nice feeling we get from being generous, being kind, and so forth, this nice feeling is based on attachment to self. But that's okay. Rejoice in that and recognize that, oh, okay, you know what? I am still attached to self. I'm not wise enough yet. And then we will continue to improve. But don't be down on ourselves about it. You know, I remember years and years ago, I was kind of taken back by this one temple I was visiting on occasions. And I just noticed some of the practitioners, they looked like they were down on themselves all the time. And I actually spoke to the Lama and mentioned that one time, just candidly. And he said, yes, that's a good point. He said, I have to remind everybody that we should rejoice in the Dharma practice. Yes, we should focus on our faults and the practice to decrease them and so forth. But we should do this with joy. You know, we have a great opportunity right now, you know, to practice the Dharma. And in this case, practice generosity. So even if you realize, oh, yes, I'm still very selfish, actually, that's okay. You recognize that already. That's a good thing. If we don't recognize it, then how can we purify that? How can we change that? And so right now we talk about ordinary generosity and ordinary level of the giving of material aid. And so I've written myself some notes. The first one here I'd like to mention is you can give to any person. Doesn't have to be somebody in need even. You can actually give just for the sake of giving to increase the habit of doing so. You also can give to other living beings. You can give to animals. You can give to insects. Even if your practice, maybe you can give to beings in other realms, such as the hungry ghost realm and so forth, through your mind, through your prayers, through your intentions. So you can give this material aid like this as well. Then we also can give to groups, such as charities and so forth. Maybe you have some favorite charities you can give to. Maybe you have some charities that you don't think much of. Maybe you should give to them too, if you can, if you're able to. The giving could be something as simple as a grain of rice. Or it could be something really big. Because the giving, or what did I put here? The value is not important, right? What's important is your view, for instance, view of emptiness, or view of everything impermanent, or the view of the act of generosity. and also your intention. That is what is of most importance. For instance, if somebody, let's say somebody is really wealthy materially, but not very generous, but they give $100 to somebody. That's kind of nothing to them in a way. But if somebody has $5 and they, throughout a real good intention, generous mind, they give that $5 away, then obviously they're giving 100% of the material wealth they have. This is far more, but on the outside, it looks like they're giving less because they only gave $5, whereas the other guy gave 100. So your intention is what really gives value to the giving, from your point of view, that is. Then, of course, we can give to society as a whole, to different community groups, things like this, to bring benefit. Maybe there's some areas that are in need of community services, maybe sporting clubs. Maybe the kids, the children in that area, maybe their parents don't have a lot of cash. And so, maybe give to those clubs or give to the people so that they can join the clubs, things like that. So it doesn't have to be just to a particular person. It can also be, like I said, to groups or other living beings as well as charities included in groups, or the community groups, or society as a whole. You can also give your time, your services. This maybe can also be put under the giving of material aid as well. You can give your energy, money. Like I said before, it could be the smallest amount of money. You could be giving to encourage others to give as well. So maybe you give. We don't want to have we don't even want to be thanked when we give. But sometimes it's actually good for others to see you give, and that will encourage them to do it. As long as you don't do it with a puffed up ego to try to be famous or popular or something. You can give things like food, the essentials, in other words, food, clothing, shelter, drink. These are very important to give, much more than other things that may be kind of meaningless in the big picture. Also, medicines are very important to give. If people really need some medicines, then it's important to give them medicines. Of course, food and water can be regarded as medicine too. In fact, think about that. I digress slightly, but think about when you eat. What are you eating? You may, it's nothing wrong with eating the things you like the taste of or the texture of and so forth, but actually maybe you can remind yourself or teach yourself really what you're eating, the nutrients, the goodness in the food. And so therefore, when we give the food to others, maybe we can think this is really going to help them. I'm really happy to be able to give. I have a lot of joy in giving, even though there is no me. There is no them, there is no giving. I will remind you, I'll just reiterate again, the value is not important. Whether something costs $100 or $5, that's not important. What is important is that your view, your understanding, and level of wisdom, as well as your intentions. Unfortunately, in the world, there's many people that hang on to stuff, and even hang on to stuff that they never use and may never use in the future. So this, you can say this is like a miserliness. I'm not saying it's a really bad thing. I myself, I haven't cleaned out my drawers for a while, and every time I do clean out the drawers, I come across stuff that I could discard. Writings or stuff that I've actually already copied or whatever, and I've still got it in the drawer. And so sometimes you throw it out in the recycling, but there are some things that you can find that you think, oh, actually, this can be helpful for someone else. Even if it's something like a notepad and you've got 10 notepads, maybe give the notepads to other people. So miserliness is not good at all, because actually, if somebody lives like this over and over and reinforces this habit, then this can result in a rebirth in an unfortunate realm, such as the hungry ghost realm. But we won't go into that. We can speak about different realms, because I've been asked about that recently in future classes, okay? So that this type of behavior, once this self-centered behavior, once it's reinforced over and continued over and over again, then can result in very unfortunate rebirth. But even in this life, you may have, what it results in is you may have everything that you need, but it doesn't satisfy you. You may have everything that you want, but you're always unsatisfied, always wanting to get more stuff, more and more stuff. And as I say often, the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to maintain, look after, be worried about, be anxious about. So I'm not telling you now to get rid of all of your stuff, okay? Keep, obviously, what is helpful for you, what is meaningful. But, you know, we can actually change our ways sometimes to give away things, even when we find these things very precious. Actually, it's very freeing for our mind, very freeing for ourselves. We can give to the needy, to the beggars, you know, people that are out on the streets. There are many of these around the world, unfortunately. There are also people that are unwell. You can, like I said, give medicines, food, shelter, clothing, and so forth to these people as well. This is actually really, this takes it beyond the ordinary, really, doesn't it now? If you really give to those people that really need it, and you give them what they really need, maybe not what they think they want sometimes. If you can discern, you know, what they really need, it's best to give that. It's very important. Also, we can give to the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Now, I get asked questions a lot over time, have been asked these questions. All of these Buddhist temples, they say, they're like, some of them are gold-plated, the statues and everything. Everything costs so much. It's high value. And it's valid questions, because some of the questions are coming from people that are very skeptical about this. Why do you give to the temple rather than giving to the person on the street? Now, that's true. If you have the opportunity to give to somebody that really needs something, you should give it to them. You know, but if you give to a temple, for instance, an already established temple, maybe what you're doing is helping them to keep it open so that they can benefit the people that attend that temple. They also can engage in charitable services themselves. So maybe, for instance, if they are raising money for some place that has had a natural disaster, then you can add to that. And so maybe they have the connections to be able to get the money to them without it being taxed, or some, you know, money being deducted by governments and things like that. Maybe they can give it directly. I'll share something with you. One of the temples many years ago, I won't name anybody or anything, but they were raising money to build the main shrine in the temple, because there was more and more people starting to attend the temple, and the old shrine was starting to become too small. And so anyway, they raised a lot of money. And then there was, if you remember, many years ago in Japan, they had the tsunami and disaster there. And they decided to give all of that money they raised for the temple towards this charity, or the charities that were helping the people after that disaster. I was very impressed with this. So then they had to start raising money for the temple again. So you can give like this, okay? Also, temples that are not established very well, maybe you can also help them, because what they're going to do at most temples, hopefully all of them, is they give Dharma teachings, such as this teaching, encouraging others to be generous and explaining what generosity really is, explaining what the parameters are, for instance. They're going to give teachings like that. And that will lead, it's like a pebble in a pond, that will lead to other people being generous as well, and continuing, you know, to increase the amount of people that will be generous, for instance. Okay, so I myself also have been skeptical on occasions when I visited, especially very well-established temples in some countries, some certain countries, you know, so big. But you know what? I thought about it, it probably suits their culture to have huge, big temples. Maybe the people, even the people that may be self-centered still, it maybe attract them to go, and then they can learn to be less self-centered. You know, so think about the positive. If you are skeptical with these things, be what I like to call open-mindedly skeptical. In other words, don't believe or disbelieve. Don't think of the negative only. Don't think of the positive only. Give yourself the opportunity to have a holistic view of whatever it is that you're being skeptical about, okay? For the sake of learning, and also the sake of being helpful as well to yourself and to others. So that kind of covers the ordinary giving of material aid. So maybe over time, over the next, bunch of weeks, classes, we will probably add to this a little bit. But I think that we'll leave it there for now, because today I wanted to cover this giving of material aid. And so there's still two types to go through, all right? We've already spoken about them in brief. So then there, of course, is the giving of something precious, and the giving with no or little attachment. So, for instance, we give our body. Maybe after we pass away, we give the organs. Difficult for us, though, isn't it, to think like this? Somebody needs a finger. Maybe you think, oh, you know what? If you include your thumbs as fingers, you've got 10, so you can give away one, because you still have 9. No, I'm joking now. Okay, so we're not able to do that yet. Okay, then something precious like our body or our house or things that we need, and even giving away our friends and family. Now, this doesn't mean you give them away and say, oh, you know what? I'll give away my daughter or my son now. No, it's not like that. But actually, this is mentally now. We're talking. Okay, so the giving of these precious things, the things that we find to be precious. You can give away your car. You can give away your stove, your fridge, all of these things that we use every day that we find really helpful. Now, don't do it. I'm not saying to do it right now, but this is more, you can see how this is regarded as great rather than ordinary, because normally, I'll go back to the money side. Let's say we do have $100. Now you can give away the $100. I'm not saying I'm good or anything, but years ago I did give a lot away when I gave up my work in the entertainment industry, because it wasn't because I was so great and I wanted to learn, how to live with nothing, even though that was part of it. But actually I knew that I could earn more. I knew that I had the songwriting royalties and the acting royalties that were going to come in anyway. So to give something away, it wasn't as if I was engaged in great giving, really, because I knew that it would be replenished very quickly. Okay, but to give the things that you find really precious is really important. Money, maybe. House, maybe. But don't do it yet, okay? In time. At very least, what we can do right now is hope and wish, have the aspiration that we can have the ability to be generous on this great level sometime in the future, okay? Have the intention, the aspiration, but still engage in what we just spoke about, the ordinary giving, even if it's extraordinary giving on occasions. And then, of course, there is the exceptionally great giving, and this is can only really be practiced by the bodhisattvas that are on the grounds, the 10 bhumis, the 10 levels just before becoming a Buddha. Okay, so I won't go into the detail of those right now. But once again, we can have the aspiration to practice like them. This is where they really do give their life, really give up their life for the sake of the life of others. And this is where you do give your body parts. So where you can do it. I'm not saying you do it. In fact, if you want to see some examples of this, the Buddha spoke of 500, I think, Jataka tales about his previous lives as a bodhisattva before he was a Buddha. In fact, there were many instances where he did this type of giving. Okay, or engaged in this type of giving. I think there was one other thing. Ordinary beings are incapable of this. We can wish to practice like this in the future and dedicate our body and life to benefit all living beings, just like the dedication prayer that we do. But actually really take that to heart. That due to everything good that I do, may it benefit others. May all of my actions, my thoughts, my speech, may it benefit others. And then as time goes on, we will improve our ability to be really, really generous, and eventually generosity based on the wisdom of emptiness. Also keep in mind the aspiration to practice this type of generosity. So constantly remind yourself of this. You can do it. Be generous now, kind of ordinary, maybe a little bit better than that, extraordinary, but remind ourselves we have the ability to really, really, really be great in this practice of generosity. Okay, I remind you again, the person giving is dependent upon the giving and the person they're giving to. The act of giving is dependent upon the giver and the receiver in this act of giving is dependent upon the act of giving and the person giving. They're all dependent. And if something or things are dependent, how can they be independent? So they are empty of independence. We only have 1 minute to go. I'm very glad for once I finally finished what I planned to finish in one short class. It won't happen again, I promise. No, I'm joking. Occasionally it will happen. But like I said, there's no rushing these teachings whatsoever. Please look after yourselves, your loved ones, and anybody else that you come into contact with, and study the Dharma well, not too much, not too little, not too tight, not too loose, and contemplate the Dharma well, practice well, share it with others to the best of your ability through your good vibes, through your kindness, your compassion. I rejoice in your goodness always. Take care, especially with the pandemic out there, okay?